In matters of truth and justice, Albert Einstein tells us there's no difference between large and small problems, for issues concerning the treatment of people are all the same.
In Jamaica, this administration has decided to move forward in a measured and deliberate way towards ganja law reform.
This is Jamaica Magazine and I'm Theodore Henry. Welcome. Coming up, we explore government's landmark ganja law reform actions and what it means for the scientific, medical and Rastafarian communities, among others. That and more is on the other side of this break.
Every time there's a strong breeze, we are full up a leaf. End of my nightmare.
She can't chop down the guava tree and get away with it. It's a bearing fruit tree. It's alright. Me and I are going to have it out in here today.
Lord Jesus.
Move, move.
Dude, stop. John, want here, man.
But,
John, look here. At least hear what she have to say first, no? Hear what she have to say. No, but not about the war situation, man. Listen. We can go down to the restorative justice center, you know, man, and sort this thing out. You don't want to set up yourself for jail. Come on, let's sort out this thing. Once and for all.
Restore the peace, restore the love, restore the niceness. Restorative justice.
Respect each other. A program of the Ministry of Justice funded through CSJP.
Good day, I'm Tamara Michaela and this is your GIS News for Monday, March 2. Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller has assured members of the Jamaican diaspora in the Bahamas that the Jamaican government will be assisting them to meet criteria under the recent immigration policy changes in that country. Under the new rules, which took effect on November 1 last year, everyone must have the passport of their nationality and if they are not a Bahamian, a valid residency or work stamp.
I want to assure you that the government of Jamaica, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is moving to ensure that all the members of the Jamaican community, including persons of Jamaican descent, will be afforded a Jamaican passport once their citizenship application has been approved. You must ensure that you take steps to legalize your status if you have not already done so.
The Prime Minister, who was addressing the Jamaican diaspora in the Bahamas last week, said the new regulations were designed to address illegal immigration into that country. She said there were discussions with Bahamian Prime Minister Perry Christie on the matter and pointed out that only a small number of Jamaicans living in the Bahamas were undocumented. Another phase of government's program to add 78 megawatts of energy to the national grid has got off to a smooth start. Ground broke last week for construction of the 34-megawatt wind plant by Blue Mountain Renewables BMR in St. Elizabeth. 11 turbines will be installed on 75 acres of land, and electricity generated at the plant will be converted and sold to the Jamaica Public Service Company. To get the 78 megawatts of energy, this project will add to Wigton's 24-megawatt facility, for which ground was recently broken, and WRB Enterprises' 20-megawatt solar plant, which will come on stream shortly. Energy Minister Philip Paulwell says all three projects represent a combined $22 billion investment.
That will record growth in our economy and, very importantly for us, the creation of jobs, JOBS.
Students attending schools in Clarendon are now enjoying a safe and more economical school bus service. The Rural Safe School Transportation Service, which was piloted a year ago in the parish, was officially launched by Transport and Works Minister Dr. Omar Davies last week.
We must address this differential between the quality of service which we offer to the rural areas. We can replicate the JUTC, but through creative thinking, we can provide a worthy service which allows our children to move to and from safely and in some level of comfort.
Stakeholders say the benefits are tremendous and are already being felt.
Improvement in punctuality at school, improvement in attendance. And what I mean by improvement in attendance? Because students are not benefiting from lower fare, traveling comfort, no more lapping up. No more lapping up, traveling comfort. Restoration of discipline. Again, no lewd and loud music. No careless and reckless driving. Operators are more courteous.
The school bus service, which mirrors a similar successful initiative established for St. Catherine, is a collaboration of the Transport Ministry, the Transport Authority, and the Clarendon Parish Council, which played a major role. Jamaica will soon be required to have all its exported agricultural produce certified by international organization Global GAP, which sets voluntary standards for the certification of agricultural products around the world.
Very soon, as a Global GAP certification will be required for all our produce going into the United States, into Europe, into Canada. It is at our doorsteps as we speak.
Mr. Maglashan was speaking at the graduation of agriculture students and farmers from the Jamaica Rural Economy and Ecosystems Adapting to Climate Change JAREACH Climate Smart Agriculture Farmer Field School program. The graduates were trained for 8 months and learned various techniques to practice climate smart agriculture. The program was implemented by ACDI VOCA and was funded by the United States Agency for International Development. And finally, the Ministry of Agriculture will be working with pineapple farmers to get them more competitive and organized as an association. While addressing pineapple farmers in Manchester recently, State Minister Luther Buchanan said research into how the crop is grown in rotation would be assessed to ensure that the quality of the crop was maintained. He also indicated that with the different types of pineapple crops being produced, in particular the Cowboy and MD2, farmers must know the required markets for specific crop types.
We have a research and development unit within the ministry. Let us utilize that, and I certainly will ensure that there is that kind of accommodation specific to you pineapple farmers, because I want to see you grow from strength to strength.
He urged the farmers to become an association, citing significant savings as a benefit when buying products as a group. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Tamara McHale. Thank you for watching.
Parents, make sure the children get immunized. Hear this! Immunization, it is a must. This is not a joke thing, this you can trust. It is required by law for entry to nursery, to daycare and to schools. Listen up, it is necessary to prevent diseases such as the measles, the poliomyelitis, the lockjaw and the whooping cough. Immunize your kids, keep them healthy, keep them strong. Prevent deadly diseases such as mumps, rubella and diphtheria. Immunize your child today. Immunization, a key to good health.
A message from the Ministry of Health and PAHO.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller met with other CARICOM leaders last week and encouraged them to maximize the creative talents within the region to advance economic development. Up next, we have more on that and other developments coming out of Jamaica House in the past few days.
Prime Minister attends the 26th Intersessional Meeting of CARICOM Heads of Government. Jamaican diaspora in the Bahamas updated on projects completed in Jamaica. And
we're fairly comfortable that we have found the right location.
St. Mary's All-Age School to receive improved bathroom facilities. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller strengthened Jamaica's relationship with CARICOM last week through her participation in the 26th Intersessional Meeting of the CARICOM Heads of Government in Nassau, Bahamas. The meeting was held on February 26 and 27. Discussions were held on reparations for native genocide and slavery, a regional marijuana commission, financing of the CARICOM Secretariat and community institutions, emoluments and the proposed pension rules for judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice and the Caribbean Knowledge Learning and Network Agency. Participants also discussed the principles to guide the identification of CARICOM candidates for international positions. Prime Minister Simpson-Miller also used the opportunity of her assignment in Bahamas to update the Jamaican diaspora there on initiatives to make Vision 2030 a reality. She said Jamaica achieved all its targets under the Economic Reform Program, which is supported by the International Monetary Fund.
We welcomed new investments and built new infrastructure, including the Linstead to Monique leg of the North-South Highway. You want to come and see it? Pretty? Additionally, Jamaica's greatly improved ranking from 94 to 58 in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report is proof that as a country, we are making steady progress.
Prime Minister Simpson Miller also used the opportunity to invite members of the Jamaican diaspora in the Bahamas to participate in the 6th Biennial Diaspora Conference in Montego Bay, St. James. The conference, which will run from June 13 to 18, is being held under the theme Jamaica and the Diaspora, Linking for Growth and Prosperity. The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, has begun the process to remove pit latrines from the St. Mary's All-Age School in Above Rock, St. Catherine, and replace them with flush toilets. JSIF, which is one of the agencies of the Office of the Prime Minister, is carrying out the project through funding support from the Petrocarib Fund. It is expected to cost $5 billion and should get underway in the next 3 months.
We're fairly comfortable that we have found the right location. We're looking forward to the commencement of work and for there to be 8 new stalls, 5 for the girls, I think 3 or 4 for the boys, 9, a soakaway and a chamber that is going to allow for the chlorination of the water, that if it is even seeped into the gully or anything around here, that it would still be safe and environmentally friendly.
So far, JSIF has replaced pit latrines with flush toilets in 33 schools across the island. Another 22 are being targeted. Government is continuing to pursue changes necessary to facilitate the digital switchover process. Minister with responsibility for information, Senator Sandria Faulkner, outlined some of the proposed changes at the 32nd annual meeting of the Caribbean Cable and Telecommunications Association.
An expanded, flexible definition of broadcasting to capture not only traditional, but new and evolving services, platforms, and technologies. Greater protection of cultural diversity and the production of indigenous high-quality content through the establishment of a local public service content fund to finance more local production of a non-commercial nature.
She added that a simplified application form for electronic communication services and other measures would also be introduced.
We are also broadening the scope and functions of the Broadcasting Commission, which is our regulatory body, to include regulating content across diverse platforms and new players.
And that's it for this week's edition of Jamaica House Weekly. Join us next week for the latest from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Join the fight. Quit smoking for life.
Rastafarians use it as a religious sacrament. Many seriously ill persons swear by its medicinal benefits. Farmers see economic potential in its variant, hemp. And those are just a few of the reasons government has taken legal action to change Jamaica's attitude to the use and control of ganja. Take a look.
In Jamaica, this administration has decided to move forward in a measured and deliberate way towards ganja law reform.
It began with Parliament passing the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Act.
That act has removed the attachment of a criminal record for possession of small quantities or smoking ganja.
Then, on February 6 and 24, both houses of Parliament passed the Dangerous Drugs Amendment Act 2015.
It begins to correct decades of criminalizing tens of thousands of Jamaicans, mostly poor young black males, for possession of a spliff.
In addition, it will reduce the caseload burden on the resident magistrates' courts.
This progressive legislation also begins to correct the victimization of our Rastafarian brethren, which started in colonial times and continued after independence.
system of complete legal prohibition of ganja in Jamaica, created by the Dangerous Drugs Act, has been in place since 1948. However, this prohibition has not worked and is no longer considered fit for purpose. For decades, the reform of the law relating to ganja has been the subject of several recommendations and reports by public and private sector groups. The reforms introduced by this bill reflect some of the recommendations coming out of the 2001 report and other consultations at the local level, and also current developments and trends in other countries.
In recent years, many countries and some US states have begun to decriminalize drug use to some degree while maintaining the illegality of drug trafficking.
The winds of change have been blowing internationally. The bill amends the definition of ganja so as to exclude hemp.
It makes the possession of 2 ounces or less of ganja a ticketable infraction and does not result in a criminal record.
The bill makes smoking ganja in public places a ticketable infraction.
It permits the cultivation of 5 or less ganja plants on any premises, which will be regarded as being for medical or therapeutic use of the leaves or for horticultural purposes.
It permits the possession of ganja for religious purposes as a sacrament in adherence to the Rastafarian faith.
It empowers the minister responsible for justice, A, to authorize a person, group of persons, or organization adherent to the Rastafarian faith to cultivate ganja on designated land to be used for religious purposes.
And it also allows the minister, on application, to declare an event, an exempt event, where he's satisfied that it is promoted or sponsored by a person, group of persons, or organization adherent to the Rastafarian faith, and is primarily for the purpose of the celebration or observance of the Rastafarian faith.
There's a set of amendments related to medical and therapeutic purposes.
The bill permits the use of ganja for medicinal or therapeutic purposes. It permits persons who are suffering from cancer or other serious chronic illness to import ganja or ganja products where their use is recommended by a registered medical practitioner.
Another amendment permits persons visiting Jamaica who provide satisfactory evidence that their use of ganja for medical or therapeutic purposes has been prescribed by a medical practitioner in the jurisdiction where they are ordinarily resident, to purchase permits authorizing them to purchase and possess up to 2 ounces of ganja while in Jamaica, subject to conditions, including the payment of a prescribed fee.
And this, Mr. President, will facilitate persons who are cannabis patients overseas coming to Jamaica and being able to use medical marijuana in Jamaica, which will be part of the thrust towards a health and wellness tourism product and can derive, I think, significant benefits for the country.
Permits the use of ganja for scientific research conducted by an accredited tertiary institution or research institution otherwise approved by the Scientific Research Council.
The bill provides for the establishment of a new regulatory body, the Cannabis Licensing Authority.
It facilitates the development of a lawful, regulated ganja industry.
Economic opportunities also exist in relation to the production of hemp and its versatile array of industrial byproducts.
It will expand Jamaicans' access to medical and therapeutic ganja products to fight against a range of diseases and related symptoms.
The legal prohibition on ganja has meant that the very real need for public messaging to discourage abusive practices in relation to ganja has been largely ignored.
It allows for more efficient use of police resources in the continuing fight against organized crime and encourages our citizens to become actively engaged in assisting our law enforcement agencies.
At the same time, the bill significantly strengthens the monetary penalties for participating in the illegal international drug trade and reaffirms Jamaica's resolute stance in this regard.
It facilitates, for the first time at last, Rastafarians having the freedom to practice their religion as guaranteed by our Constitution.
Welcome to the FSC Minute. I am Nadine Newsom. Joining me, Sonia Nicholson, Acting Senior Director of Securities at the FSC. Welcome to the FSC Minute, Sonia.
Thank you, Nadine.
Sonia, how does the FSC protect an investor in a licensed entity?
Nadine, there are a number of ways in which the FSC protects investors in licensed entities. I will just highlight a few. We do desk and routine examinations of the licensees. In addition to that, we review the periodic filings which these entities submit to the FSC. These reports can be daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly reports. We also do enhanced monitoring of problem institutions. Problem institutions are really entities that have a history of non-compliance. In addition to that, we issue public notices in relation to specific actions which are allowed by our legislation in terms of our licensed entities. We also do fit and proper assessment. And the fit and proper assessment is to establish that persons are of sound probity, they are able to exercise judgment, diligence in relation to the licensee, and to establish that their actions do not in any way threaten the investors of a licensees. And in addition to that, we also do investigations of complaints.
Can the FSC protect persons who invest in unregistered schemes or Ponzi schemes?
No, Nadine. The FSC cannot protect persons who invest in Ponzi schemes. What the FSC does is we educate the public in relation to these operations, and where we get complaints about the operations of these schemes, then we will investigate. To the extent that these entities would not be routinely filing financial and non-financial information with the FSC, this limits the extent to which we'll be able to offer any protection to these persons.
And what could happen if a licensed entity invests in a Ponzi scheme?
If a licensed entity invests in a Ponzi scheme, this would have implications for the fit and proper status of the owners and operators, to the extent that these Ponzi schemes tend to be fraudulent in nature, and there are very high risks involved in investing in them. If an investor experiences severe losses as a result of this investment, this could have serious reputational risk for the licensed entity.
Thank you, Sonia. My guest today was Sonia Nicholson, Acting Senior Director of Securities at the FSC. For the FSC Minute, I am Nadine Newsom.
Our interest in matters of justice continues, and in this next feature we explore one way of achieving that without engaging the courts, while allowing victims and perpetrators to face each other and peacefully resolve their issues. It's a progressive form of setting right to wrong.
All of us, either as individuals or groups, have a role to play in ensuring peace and justice prevail in the society. In fact, answers to many of the injustices within society to a great extent lies within our actions towards one another. That involves more people embracing fairness and non-adversarial relationships in realization of the possibilities for lasting peace. And citing the potential gains, the government has embraced the concept of restorative justice, or RJ, as a plausible means to deal with the many injustices that plague the society.
In Jamaica, we have a propensity for violence and so on. RJ is a therapeutic procedure which allows issues that arise between people to be resolved through a managed process which leads to the righting of the wrong and the repairing of the relationship.
To begin with, the police have been sensitized, and the Ministry of Justice, through its Restorative Justice Unit, has trained volunteers to become restorative justice facilitators as it moved to put RJ into practice. A pilot implementation was started in 4 communities but has since expanded to several others across the island. That process is administrative, but legislative changes would formalize RJ into the justice system. The restorative justice process is voluntary and starts with an offender accepting responsibility for his or her action, then taking steps to repair the harm, rebuild relationships, or compensate the victim. Attention is drawn to a case by a referral process.
There are 5 referral points for the restorative justice program. The first referral point is directly from the communities. So pastors, justice of the peace, community leaders, or just community persons who are aware that there are disputes or issues in the community can contact the Restorative Justice Center and refer the case to us. And these cases could be persons arguing over a tree overhanging their property, simple theft, larceny. Those cases can come to the restorative justice program. The second referral point is where it's still a minor offense, but the police have been called. The police can make a recommendation to the clerk of court to refer the case directly to us. The third referral point would come from the resident magistrates at pre-trial. So rather than sending the case to trial, they feel the offender has taken responsibility.
The fourth point of referral comes at the post-trial pre-sentencing stage, while the fifth referral point is at post-conviction or just before an offender is released from prison back into the community.
When these cases are referred to us, an agreement, the idea is that an agreement will be made between the parties. If the agreement is completed, satisfactory, then the case will just be closed. If you didn't satisfy the agreement, it goes back to the court.
Conflicts do arise from time to time as people suffer hurt and injustice, but resolving them, overcoming and moving on to a more progressive life demands that each person does what's morally right.
In RJ, it's very much about restoring a relationship and making reparations for a harm that has taken place. That's the primary objective, and it's somewhat different because in mediation, that may or may not be the outcome, but in RJ, that is always the outcome. So that's a principal difference. There are some other differences as well. For example, in RJ, the person who speaks first is the person who has done wrong because they have to accept responsibility at the outset of the process, otherwise it can't work. In mediation, there's no such requirement.
Restorative justice is a way to live life based on the values of trust, honesty, respect, empathy, and forgiveness.
The beauty of RJ is that it disposes of matters which would otherwise have to come into the criminal justice system, but can be dealt with satisfactorily outside of the system through RJ, and therefore relieve some of the burdens on our courts.
Restorative justice, a pathway for transformation to a more secure, just, cohesive, and peaceful Jamaican society.
And that's our show. We welcome your feedback, so please continue to send your emails to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. We are also available on all major social media platforms. Need updates on all the positive things happening on the island? Download our mobile app, JIS Mobile, from the Google Play Store. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Theodore Henry. Thank you for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.